Welcome back to another episode of Critically Incorrect, your weekly gaming podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, or online here today with Charlie, if you wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, another episode. There was a little bit of a hiatus because I did fly to Europe for about a week or so that's why we missed the last two weekends, sadly. But yeah, we're back stronger than ever. Yeah, lots of gaming news to talk about, as you imagine. A lot has happened in the last 3 weeks or so. So we collected kind of like the biggest highlights and news stories, and yeah, should be a fun episode. But of course, as we always start off these episodes with, we talk about what we've been playing in terms of gaming. So Charlie, take it away. What have you been playing over like the last 3 weeks or so?
Yeah, I had to go back and look at like my Steam recently played and stuff because I feel like I've played a decent amount of just random bits and pieces. Um, the first kind of like weird one is I went back and I've been replaying like all the Arkham games. So I went back and beat Asylum and City again. They only took me like I think like 7, 8 hours each. They weren't crazy long. It's mainly because Labs has been
I was about to
streaming
say
the
that, yeah.
games, and it like made me really want to play them. So I like sped run through those games, and then I'm like 8 hours into replaying Arkham Knight on PC. Um, I'm enjoying Knight quite a bit. It's weird because it's been I don't know when the last time was I played Knight, like probably like 5 years maybe since I last played that game, maybe more. Um, and I remember really enjoying like the gameplay and stuff, and obviously the story wasn't quite there for me, but yeah, I'm really enjoying going back, especially after like immediately playing through like Asylum and City. Like the game feels so much smoother, and just like the gadget combos are so much cooler in Night and stuff. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun just playing through that one again. I kind of wanted to also just replay them before Gotham Knights, even though it's not connected. Just because I wanted to play some like more DC Batman stuff before then. So I've been playing those. The multiverse is like beta or kind of like early access release because it's just gonna keep going until it launches. Like I think next week or the week after. So the beta came out this week. I've been playing a decent amount of that. I think I've played like 8 hours or so. Um, I'm enjoying it a lot. I think it's really good. It does have some issues here and there. Some characters are pretty unbalanced. That like they added LeBron this week, LeBron James, and he's like really busted to be honest. But no, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It does some cool stuff that Smash should have done a while ago, to be honest. Stuff like attack decays and things like that. But no, it's really fun. The roster's really cool. The music's really good in it. The only thing like gameplay wise I'd probably change is like the stages are kind of stale. When I play Smash, I tend to play on the ones that are kind of very basic, just because they're more fun for like competitive play. But they haven't really got any like fun like crazy maps at the moment. They're all just kind of very basic. So I hope they add in some more of the like weird and wacky stages with like loads of moving platforms and stuff because they don't have any of that really at the moment. And then been playing like Fall Guys and Fortnite as well. And I did try to play Espire 1 in VR. I bought it on the Steam like VR sale, and I couldn't get the game to work on my PC. And I looked at the reviews, and apparently it's been like broken for like a year, but they stopped updating it on Steam, like over a year ago. And basically when they released the Quest port, they just ditched the PC version of the game. So they're like 10 like updates behind or something. They just don't bother updating it. So I was gonna buy it on Quest. I refunded it, but it was like full price on Quest. So I was like, screw that. I'm gonna just wait. I'm not supporting devs that just ditch a game on a platform. So I will wait until that's on sale to pick that one up. Just because I wanted to play it before two, because two looks really cool.
Just wait for the
Um,
Splinter Cell VR game. Oh wait.
oh wait, exactly. That was kind of my thing. I didn't pick that game up at launch because I was like, oh, they're gonna do like a Splinter Cell game, and that's like that'll be way better, right? But yeah. Anyway, and then the other main thing I played is actually Horizon Forbidden West. I finally went back and beat that game after how many months has it been out? Like 3, 4 months, something like that.
5 months, right?
Bruh, I don't even know. But yeah, I finally went back and finished it. It's really annoying because the only reason I went back is one of my co-workers, she'd been playing the game, and she told me that where I basically left off was literally 2 missions from the end of the main story. So I was like, bro, I need to go back and
Pretty
just
sure
finish it. Like,
Kim told you that like ages ago as well.
oh, did she? Oh,
I
okay, I
remember
can't
that, yeah.
remember. But yeah, I was literally like two missions off, so I sat down one evening and just played through the rest of the main story. Um, I enjoyed it. I think it's like story wise, it's a lot better than the first one. I wasn't a big fan of how it ended, just because it literally sets it up for a third and I guess final game. Um, Whereas the first one, it left some things open, right, but it did feel like a nice ending. This just feels straight up like a to be continued. Like it didn't really wrap up many story threads. So that was kind of my only issue, because now I know we're gonna have to wait like 4 or 5 years to like finish the story, right? Um, but like the gameplay and stuff was really fun. I am probably gonna go back and try and platinum it, because the platinum doesn't look too challenging. The thing that put me off the game previously is I put like 40 hours into it, mainly doing side content, before realizing you have to do like hardly any of the side content for the platinum, which is really frustrating. Like a lot of the collectibles and stuff. So, yeah, I'll go back and get the platinum, but when I'll do that, I'm not too sure. But for me, I think that's about it. I know you're not obviously gonna have as much to say, but yeah, I think that about covers it.
Yeah. So yeah, my list won't be that long, but I did beat a game. So yeah, obviously I've been traveling, so obviously I didn't bring anything with me. I didn't bring a Switch or anything. I just traveled, right? But when I came back, obviously I wanted to catch up on Stray, since that's a game I was looking forward to playing, and I actually beat that like a few hours before we were recording this. So yeah, it only took me about like 4 or 5 hours. It's actually shorter than I thought, but I'm actually really happy about that. Just because I don't know, feel like it didn't overstay its welcome. Game was pretty solid. Biggest thing that surprised me were just like I like the really or like the I want to say story, but the world of Stray is interesting, and like kind of like the ethos behind like everything that's going on and stuff like that is interesting to me that I didn't think I would be into. I always thought this game's hook was just you play as a cat, but there's more to it. Gameplay is like kind of basic, right? It's mainly like really light puzzle solving, but it's just cool to play a third person game where you play as someone that's not like a humanoid. Yeah, so it's cool to play as like a cat. So yeah, overall, I was pretty impressed by that. So yeah, definitely go check it out if you have any of the PlayStation Plus tiers, or yeah, even go check it out honestly if you don't have that, just because it's a super solid game. And that's pretty much all I've been playing. I also played a bit of Fortnite and Fall Guys like usual, but yeah, nothing to speak on that. And then like literally 10 minutes before recording this, I did boot up Multiverses, and I did play like the tutorial as Shaggy. And then I also checked out like Tom and Jerry's move sets in the lab. But like literally, I only have like 10 minutes on that game, so everything I've seen of it is pretty cool. Definitely want to give some more time into it before I can speak on it early. But yeah, cool. Fighting games usually aren't for me, so I'm not expecting to like it. But I figured I'd try it out, right? So yeah. Anyways, in terms of the releases this week, I kind of just spoke on both of them. Stray came out last week, and then Multiverses obviously is now in open beta, so that's cool. I know Multiverses has been doing really well in terms of like concurrent players, at least on Steam, and I imagine that's probably true for like PlayStation and Xbox as well. So cool to see that game doing well. And yeah, I guess we'll move on to our first news story, and that is the PS Plus games for August. And there's kind of more to it because obviously now that there's two extra tiers, I'm guessing PlayStation is now going to be announcing like games that join the catalog as well. So you'll see what I mean in a second here. So yeah, first of all, in terms of like the traditional PS Plus, essential games for August, this month's pretty cool. First of all, we're getting Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. This was like the remaster or remake, whatever you want to call it, that came out like 2 years ago. It was like right before the PS5 came out. I already own it, but yeah, super solid game. Really good pick. We're also getting Little Nightmares, the first one, so that's pretty cool. It's a PS4 game. Definitely go check it out. I think Charlie and I talked about that like one of the early episodes of the podcast. And then the last one is Yakuza Like a Dragon, which I think is probably the big one here. That's like it's a pretty substantial release. I obviously have a lot of friends that are into Yakuza. I personally haven't played any of them yet, so this will be nice just to get another game under the catalog, right? And more reason to go check out this series. So yeah, personally, I really like this month. There are also like 8 Yakuza games joining like extra and premium. Yeah, it's a little bit iffy on the details on what falls under extra and premium, but like almost like every single Yakuza game I swear is now coming to PlayStation, under the service. So pretty cool stuff there. Yeah, Charlie, what are your thoughts on the PS Plus games for August?
Yeah, like you, I think it's a really solid month, and also like you, I do own some of these games, right? I've played both the Little Nightmares games, so that one doesn't really apply to me, and I do also own Tony Hawk Pro Skater, although I didn't really play it a ton. I remember I played it a little bit when it came out, and then I played it a bit more when the PS5 patch came out, but I never really got into it. I think it was just because I'd never played the Pro Skater games, which people may like hate me for, because yeah, I never played those when I was younger. I played, was it Underground on PS3? I think was it called Underground, something like that.
That seems
Um,
familiar. Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever
I
one
wasn't
was
big
on
on those games.
one of the ones on PS3 where there's like it's all like a kind of open world. But I remember playing that one. That one was cool. But that was very influenced by like Skate and stuff. And I was always a much bigger fan of Skate. I really enjoyed Skate 2 and 3. Um, so I was kind of hoping that I'd get kind of like the skating fix in Pro Skater, but it's a lot more arcadey, and I just don't think Pro Skater is as much for me as I would like. But it's still a really cool pick because they're both like really good games. And then Yakuza is one of those where I've tried to get into before. I remember I played a bit of, I think it was Zero, which I think was on PS Plus, yeah, like a few years ago. I say a few years ago, probably like 4 years ago now, something like that. Um, and yeah, I remember I played a few hours of that, but I just couldn't get into it. It was a bit too like Japanese for me. I kind of wanted it to be a bit more serious. I remember I really liked they did like a feudal Japan version of like Yakuza by the same devs back on PS3, and it never released in the West. But I remember my dad had a copy of like that he'd got imported, and I remember I played that quite a bit. That was really fun. They should do another one of those. But yeah, I've never really gotten into Yakuza, but again, a cool pick. Although it's been out on Xbox with like Game Pass since like was it launch or like near launch?
Uh,
Um,
Not sure on if it was near launch, but it's
Yeah,
definitely
because
been like a
it
while
was.
now.
I think it might have been because it was like timed exclusive, right, or something
I feel
like
like it was
that
timed exclusive with, yeah, it was like
on
at
next
launch for
gen.
Xbox One or Xbox Series X, and I think it
Yeah,
was on Game Pass too.
something weird like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the games being on the plus like extra tiers or whatever is cool. Although I was saying to Brandon before we started, like it's kind of funny how they just have it basically free on every platform now. Like on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, if you own a subscription on there, you can just play all these games. So clearly, like, is it Sega that do them? They just don't care about the
Yeah,
money for
Sega's
these
the
anymore.
publisher.
Like they've made enough money from it now that like PlayStation just give them like a couple million, and they're like, yeah, sure, that'll do. Like that'll cover us. Like we've made enough on this series. Just here you go. Everyone's bought it who wants to play it. But yeah, some cool picks.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully one day I'll get into these games. Yeah. Anyways, the PlayStation news continues as PlayStation dropped a new OS update for the PS5 just recently, at least in beta form. The main highlights are that it's finally added 1440p support, and then it also added kind of folders, but it's called Gamelists. There's a little bit of differences, which I'll speak to because I did receive the beta update. And then there's also like some more social like features, but those are like the main big changes with this OS update. I haven't been able to test the 1440p support yet because that monitor is still in my college room, so I'll check that out next week because I am going back there next week. But I was able to see the game list feature, which I think is pretty cool. It's a little bit different from folders, as I said, because it's obviously like in your collection of games, so it's not something that you see like on the very front. Um, it's also very different in the fact that you can add like any game, so it doesn't have to be installed in order to be on your game list. So I have like a backlog folder where I keep a bunch of the games that I want to play next, but that might not necessarily be installed, which I think is cool. So yeah, there's definitely like trade-offs. I think I kind of like this version better because it kind of keeps the UI kind of clean on the very front. You don't have like a folder and have like a multiple games on like your PS5 OS or like the very front of what you'd see when you're like on the home menu. It's like kind of ticked away in your folder into your like collection of games, which I think I really like. Yeah, that being said, like that's mainly all they added, but like those are two really big things for me. Just having like a folder essentially for like multiplayer and backlog, and hopefully the 1440p support will work on my monitor because I know they said it like works on the quote unquote select monitors or something like that. So if that works, I'm gonna be a very happy person, and I'll probably use my PS5 a lot more because I won't be playing in 1080p anymore. So yeah, Charlie, what are your thoughts on everything they added in this update?
Yeah, I'm glad they've added 1440p support. I wasn't sure if they'd actually do it, to be honest.
Same.
Just based on the fact that PlayStation have never really had a history with supporting like monitor style features, and obviously 1440p isn't like a TV resolution, so I'm glad they have done it. I do hope this means that maybe they'll allow you to do like higher refresh rate support in the future with 1440p. I don't know if it's a thing right now. I haven't looked into it.
I don't think so,
Um,
but that'd be cool in the future.
but a lot of the PlayStation devs and even some of like the third party have been pretty like supportive of having all these different like modes, and I really hope that now 1440p is an option, that maybe some games start to offer like a middle ground where it's 1440p at a higher refresh rate. Because I think there are some games that are like 1080p with like 120 hertz, but maybe being able to have like 1440p 120, but like slightly worse graphics or no ray tracing or whatever. I think it would be nice just as an option for like some multiplayer games or something, because then I might be more inclined to buy more stuff on my PS5. Um, that being said, I probably won't use it that much, if at all, just because I've got my two monitors here, so it's not something where I need to use it. If I was still at uni, if this had happened a few years ago, then yes, this would have been amazing because I would have only had my one monitor with me. So for people like Brandon who don't have two monitors with them at all times, then yes, I could see this being a lot more useful. But for me, I probably will stick to just using the 4K monitor for PS5 like I do currently. Just because why would I bother using the 1440p one unless like I just said, they do like a higher refresh rate mode as well, but that'll probably be a while off. As for the games list thing, it's not something I'll ever use. I never really used folders on PS4 either, and it wasn't because they weren't useful, it was because I'm like really OCD when it comes to aesthetics, and I hated having like the folder icon
Yeah.
with the little game icons. I just didn't like it at all. Um, so if they ever add folders onto this, I probably won't use it. But having the games list on the far right thing on the collection is another reason why I'll probably never use them. Most of the time, if I want to play a game that isn't on that front screen, I just search for it anyway. It's because I'm that lazy. So I will probably never use that. Um, but I'm gonna make a wild bet, and I'm gonna say that the next big like PS5 OS update is gonna be themes. I'm feeling it. They've done a lot of the bigger things that people wanted. I feel like the next thing has to be themes, right? And they're gonna do it before Nintendo. It's gonna happen.
My biggest question is what will the theme change? Because like even like there's like hardly anything that they can do. Like your collection folder might have like a different color in the background, or like your settings menu. Like when do you ever see like what is the
I
main
mean,
theme for the PS5? It's just that main like gray color, right?
I
That's in
would
the
say it would
back.
maybe it would do something like it. You could disable the artwork that shows up when you hover over a game. That way, you're just gonna always have a theme. I mean, they could. I don't know. I'm sure they're probably trying to figure out ways of doing it, but I feel like that would be the most obvious if you really wanted to. You just allow in the settings to disable like those animated pictures and stuff that pop up when you hover over a game. Um, or maybe just lower them back to how they were on like PS4 and stuff. But who knows? But I think that's the next big thing, because I don't really know off the top of my head what else people have really been asking for with the OS other than like 1440p in folders. But um, yeah, I can't think of anything else.
They've been good with these updates. It's not been like super quick. 'Cause obviously, it's been like almost 2 years now since the PS5's been out. But
Yeah.
like relatively speaking, like I was surprised to see that they had a game list in 1440p, which is cool. So like maybe themes will come. I guess that is a good you know reason is if they do like, allow you to disable the artwork. I don't know if that happens. I probably would keep the artwork. I don't know. I like having the artwork come up for the games and stuff like that. Like I'm usually someone that really likes themes, but with the PS5, it's like I don't know. I just love having like the full like screen have just like the artwork of the game. It's that whole PS3 era, right, where you would hover over the
Mm.
disc icon for a few seconds and have like a little preview, but like even more minimalized and like yeah. Yeah, anyways, that's pretty much the OS update. So cool to see. Anyways, a really bizarre news story came from Meta this week, and that's the fact that Quest 2 is going up in price by $100. So it's going to be like $399 for the base. It's weird because like I own a Quest 2. To think that this thing is going up in price is weird. Uh, Beat Saber is gonna be included for like a limited time, so I guess that's like their one thing to like justify it. But like nothing else. Like just you're paying more for something that's already been around for less. Uh, yeah. Thoughts? My first impression of this was PlayStation must be fucking happy right now because there's no way PSVR 2 is coming out like cheap. So like they must be like, holy hell, thank God, because now we're like a proper competitor. Like now I think that like PSVR 2 has like a really good chance to like sell really well. Like I always thought it was gonna be good if it had like good games, right? Because that's what sells VR. But like now it's like you like probably would only have to spend like an extra $100 to get a VR headset that utilizes the power of a PS5 instead of a phone processor. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of excitement there for PlayStation now to capitalize on that. But in terms of just like VR in general, kind of sucks, right? Just because it's nice to be able to have like a cheaper headset on the market for people to get into VR if they're like skeptical on it. In terms of why they did this, I mean, the price that, initially already was like kind of cheap and they definitely were taking losses on it. I'm sure Meta was doing this because they wanted to convert people into VR and they decided to take like a price hit for that. And then obviously everything going on in the economy right now isn't the best, so maybe that as well. But yeah, weird news story anyway. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Charlie? I imagine it's not too positive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as you. It's just super weird. I did just check to see if they've gone up in price yet, which they haven't. They're still
It's like next
the
week
same
they do.
price. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm guessing the reason, right, is simply chip shortages and the cost of them to make the hardware is getting to the point where they can't take as much of a loss on it. Um, it's just weird that they would even bother purely because I imagine they're really far in the process of making the Quest 3. They've got the
Don't say
Meta
that.
Quest Pro coming out this year, I think, which is like their like mixed reality, more like professional headset, right? Um, so it seems weird that they would bother because if I was them, I would just keep selling it as it is and just then have a higher price for this new headset. Because yeah, it's just a weird choice because the headset's been out for nearly 2 years, and it's very rare that hardware has a price increase over that amount of time. If anything, you'd expect a decrease because in theory, stuff should get cheaper over time. But obviously, we're in a weird space right now with hardware. So, yeah, it's an odd one. The fact that they're trying to like sweeten the deal by like being like, here's a $20 game included for free, even though we're making you pay $100 more, and you probably already have this game, but whatever. And like it's super weird like that. And also it's limited time. Like it's not. I assumed it was just gonna be forever. You get Beat Saber included, but
Yeah,
nope.
it's limited.
It's just limited time. I don't know if they said how limited it is. Is it gonna be like 6 months or a year or a month? Like I don't know. They probably have said in small print somewhere. But yeah, overall weird. But the first thing, like you, I thought was PlayStation are probably like, damn, we have a much bigger chance than we did, and I imagine they were gonna do fine anyway. But this is just going to keep them in the running even more because when it comes to, say, Christmas next year, right, when the headset's been on the market for presumably 9 months or something like that, they can go, right, our headset comes with this game. You get all your controllers, you get everything you need. You just need a PS5. It costs $399, $450, whatever it's gonna be. I still think it's gonna be $399. I think that's the price point they'll
For
probably
the
hit.
base headset or for the controller? There's no way that's with the controllers, right?
I think
That's
it'll be with the controllers. I still think that's how
what.
it will be. I still think it's gonna be $399 for the whole thing. Um, I feel like I have said that before. But yeah, because I don't think they can go make it any more expensive than the PS5, right? Like I just don't think you can really do that. I think if you make it more expensive than the PS5, people start like looking at them funny because the main bit of like even though it's cool hardware and it's probably going to be sold at a massive loss, the main difference between that and the Quest is all in one, whereas the PSVR, the main bulk of the pro or all of the processing hardware you already own, so that's why they can't really sell it more than the PS5. I think if they do, that's a major mistake. But if they can put it at $3.99, then that's a massive one up to them having it at the same price point as the Quest 2. Um, that is, unless the Quest 3 comes out, and who knows what they do with the price point for that one.
I'll be
Um,
impressed if that comes out since I bought Quest 1 and 2.
but yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with the competition there. Obviously, I think it's probably going to do better than Quest ever could, to be honest. Like, PSVR 1 did really well, and still continues to do surprisingly well. So,
Sure.
um, I think it did well, like,
I feel
considering,
like I know
when it
PSVR
came
did well,
out.
but I'm pretty sure when Quest came out, it like demolished PSVR because it was like all in
It
one.
probably
It was
has now, yeah. But I think I could easily see it going the other way again. Once VR2 comes out, give it a year, right, when more PS5s are out in the wild as well. More families have got them and that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be an interesting like battle between the headsets. But it's definitely it's just a weird choice. Like I can't say I've ever like I can remember hearing about like a price increase on hardware, especially at that kind of amount. Like it's not a small amount, right? And the funny thing is with this, the company I work for, who sells like secondhand stuff, they put up the prices of the Quest 2 today, so they've already like bumped them up by like £50 over here, and that's before they've even done like the official price increase. So yeah, fun times.
yeah, it's weird for sure. Um, my prediction is I think the headset will be sold by itself for $3.99, and I think with the controllers it'll be
That's
like
so weird though, because there's not gonna
a
be no
hundred more.
games that work without the
What are
controllers.
you talking about? Like you could probably, I mean, like there's
Nah,
plenty of
man,
PSVR games that use the
they can't do
DualShock.
that. Ain't no way. If they did, that's an idiot move from
Moss will
Sony
work
if they
for
do
the
that.
DualShock. Like half of the games just can use the controller.
Man. Oh,
I don't
because all
know.
their flagship games are going to use the controllers. It would be dumb to sell it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know.
I'm not a big corporation. I'm just saying it would be dumb. Like they should not do a whole. The only reason they didn't include like the Move controllers with the base thing at launch was because people did own them. Not many people, but people owned the Move controllers.
That is
So
true, I
like,
guess. Yeah.
whereas no one's gonna own these controllers.
But
So
there's also like there were a lot of games on PSVR one that were like only on the DualShock. It worked. Like Battlezone was like at launch that worked only on the DualShock. Plenty of games only worked on it. Like Headmaster, you didn't need a controller for Headmaster. Like I could see reasons why they wouldn't include the controller, especially since they have a lot of technology inside of them. Like there's haptic feedback for like both of them, so that's probably going to be expensive if the DualSense is like $70. That those two combined are probably going to be like 100. You'd think at least. So like you could probably sell the headset for a lot cheaper, if you just sell the headset alone. But you know, yeah, I guess all their
we'll
flagship
see.
games will be.
We'll see. But yeah, all the
Yeah.
games I could think of that they want to advertise with it would be using the
Because now
controllers.
Village, you're going to be using controllers instead of the dual shock like you did on 7. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Yeah, we're just waiting on Sony for that information, and they did release some information earlier, like last week or something. But Charlie and I didn't really include it because it wasn't that big. But I guess we can mention it quickly here. They like announced essentially like cinema mode, which is something that already exists on PSVR, where you'll be able to see like the PS5 projected on like a big screen in like a virtual cinema, which I assume they mean just like a black void, which is what it currently looks like on PSVR. And then they also announced that using the external cameras or internal cameras, I guess you could say, on the headset, you're gonna be able to see like essentially it's pass through, which is already a thing on the Quest, where you're gonna be able to see like everything around you without having to take off your headset. It's like super convenient if you want to like move stuff around, or just reposition yourself. So that's cool to see. And then at the very end of that blog post are like more information, including pricing and launch date will come soon. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of it. I imagine the next time we'll like see proper news for like the games at least will be whenever PlayStation does their next showcase, which has been long rumored for September. So I guess that's probably gonna be it. But yeah, we'll move on to the next news story. This one happened quite a bit long ago. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But yeah, Bayonetta 3 is releasing on 28th of October. Was this the thing? No, this was like randomly announced, and it wasn't included in terms of the partner showcase. I remember being really like weirded out by that. But yeah, cool to see that it's coming out. The 28th of October. Kind of weird that it's coming out like super close to Mario Rabbids, like another Switch game. But yeah, that's the only thing I have to say about that. Really, I'm probably not gonna pick it up just because I haven't played Bayonetta 2 yet. But I loved the first Bayonetta. What are your thoughts on that, Charlie? Are you planning on picking up Bayonetta 3?
Well, you just reminded me about Mario and Rabbids, so that's another reason why I'm not going to be picking up Bayonetta 3. Yeah, this like it's a cool time frame for it because like Halloween time frame and stuff. But yeah, there's too much coming out, man. That week you've got Gotham Knights, Modern Warfare 2. I think is Mario and Rabbids that week as well.
I think it's earlier in
Um,
October, but like
yeah, it's that
2 weeks
month,
earlier.
and then a few weeks after you've got God of War. So yeah, there's so much coming out, and sure I could afford to buy these games, but I ain't gonna have the time. So like I'm gonna struggle with time as it is. Like I've booked time off for the end of October so that I can play Gotham Knights and like COD in peace without having to work. Um, but it's still gonna be tough to like get through all these games, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's one I was looking forward to, but I'm just gonna have to hold off on it just because there's too many other games, and frankly, those other games I'd rather get over Bayonetta. But it's still cool that it's finally coming out after what, like 3, 4 years since it got announced. So yeah,
Yeah, it's been like it was announced at that Game Awards. Like I think that like the very
is
end
it
of that first
2018?
year for it was 2017. I'm pretty sure it was
Bruh,
announced like the same year that Breath of the Wild won Game
let
of the
me look
Year.
this up.
I'm pretty sure it's been 5 years or almost 5 years. You can quote me on that. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
I'm
it
gonna
was
look
that
it up.
first year.
Game Awards
Yeah,
2017. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
it's been a while. That's
Jeez,
crazy. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I looked it up. Mario Rabbids is actually coming out October 20th, so only 1 week
bruh.
before. So I don't know
Oh,
what thought process was there. This is like exactly like the Titanfall and Battlefield 1. Granted, they're not the same genre, and the player base is probably somewhat different, but I mean, like, still Switch exclusive. I would probably space it out better. But yeah. I also forgot Splatoon 3 is coming out soon. That's like next month. Or not next month, but
it's
September 9th.
September.
So, like,
Yeah.
essentially a month away. So that's cool. I forgot about that game. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, weird timing, but cool to see Bayonetta 3 finally coming out after like 5 years. Anyways, I guess you can talk about this next news story because honestly, I haven't really been following a lot of the skate news. So yeah.
Yeah, so basically in the lead up to like they've started doing playtests for the new skate game, they put up like this, I think it was like 10-15 minute long video. A load of the devs just sat down talking about the game, their kind of like main pillars of what they're focusing on. Giving the official title, which as most people thought, it isn't called Skate 4, it's just called Skate. Because it's kind of like just a fresh start for the series, right? Like it's not going to be tied to those older games. It's going to be free to play, have cross play, cross progression, all that kind of stuff. They said, so the interesting thing with this next point is they said there's not going to be loot boxes and there won't be like pay to win content. But then literally, I don't know, hours after they posted that video, someone data mined the alpha and they found references to like swag bags or something, which looked a lot like loot boxes. But I did say in a group chat that somebody mentioned it, that it is an alpha. That stuff's not meant to be shown publicly. I wouldn't be surprised if that was in the game and they're not doing it anymore. I wouldn't be shocked if they were planning to do it and then EA were like, I don't know, boys. Maybe we shouldn't do loot boxes in this game.
Or would people be
Because
surprised by that? Because I feel like loot boxes is such like a 5 year old concept that was like back with like Battlefront 1 and like the original Overwatch as well.
yeah, but it's
I
EA,
don't
so
know.
they feel like they every time they announce a game, they have to say that they're not doing it because they're
That
like,
is
we
true,
don't
I
want a
guess.
Battlefront 2 on our hands.
That is
Um,
true.
so I get it from their perspective because EA's name with free to play is never going to sound nice. Unless you're Apex. I think Apex is one of the shining examples of loot boxes done okay because they actually tell you the chances of getting stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It sounds cool. There has been a ton of leaked footage that has come out because more people have been getting into the alpha. Annoyingly, I still have not been invited to it, which sucks because I really want to try it out. Um, the alpha that they seem to be testing on isn't their like most recent build of the game because they've shown footage of like a more recent version of the game, like with nicer player models and map and stuff. It seems to be the build they're getting people to test is like a pre alpha version of the game where your character is just like this basic one tone model with like gray box maps and stuff. It is literally just to test out the mechanics, and like the open world stuff, which looks really cool because you can basically like um, It's like massively multiplayer map. You just go around skating. You can place down like ramps and like map pieces wherever you want in the world, which I think is really cool. So you could just like spawn on top of a building and just make like a massive ramp with people. They also, I don't know if you can do it everywhere, but they did say like there's events that pop up, um, kind of like you would get in say like Destiny or something, where it gets you all to show up to the same place, and then you can just build like a massive like just whatever you want, like a course or whatever, that you could have everyone on the server just messing around in, which sounds really fun. um, Overall the game just sounds like it has a ton of passion put into it, which is cool to see. The team seems like really excited about it. They do keep saying, like both in the video and online, that the game is still super early, and if you get in, it is like it's nowhere near finished. But a lot of the leakers were saying they are aiming for a release of some kind like early next year. Seems to be the kind of aim.
That amazes me. What the
So,
hell?
so I don't know if maybe they're gonna go for like an early access type thing, like open beta kind of style thing, like early next year. Maybe I'm not really sure. Um, but yeah, because it's such mixed message. Well, I say it's mixed messaging. All the official messaging has been that it's super early and it's far out, but all the leaks are saying it's not. It's actually really far in development. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. But I really want to play it soon because it looks cool. Yeah, I just want to get my hands on it.
That sounds cool. It's also super bizarre because wasn't this game announced like just last June, and it was like just a
Yes.
developer saying we're starting
Well,
work on it.
I think that was 2 years ago now. They said
Oh,
that they
okay.
were starting it, and then last year they showed off the trailer where they're like, "Hey, we're working on it." Because the first one was literally they just started the company,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then last year was that we're actually working on the game now, and we're getting all these people to come in and tell us what they think and that kind of thing.
I see. I see. Okay. Yeah. Sounds cool. Yeah. Free to play is cool. Definitely will check it out. I never signed up for the beta. I'll probably just check it out once it's like an official release. So yeah. Anyways, the next news story is pretty cool, especially if you're a Naughty Dog fan. Bruce Straley, obviously, a notorious member of, definitely one of the co-creators of No Joke and The Last of Us. He announced his new game company, Wildflower Interactive. Obviously, Bruce Straley left quite a few years ago, and seemingly left the industry. But in the video for Wildflower Interactive, essentially said he still had ideas for like games that he wanted to make, and that he felt like the industry hasn't tapped into yet. So that he decided just to form a few friends, and eventually decided that he needed to create a company for this. And yeah, it's Wildflower Interactive. Yeah, they're pretty much just hiring now. No details on the game, obviously. It's mainly just they're a thing now. Come work for us. This is what our company stands for in terms of being inclusive and wanting to work on really cool games that haven't been done before. So yeah, sounds like a pretty cool company. Definitely going to be looking into this because Bruce Straley is definitely one of the members I really liked at Naughty Dog, and especially since he was hands on in the gameplay side of things. Definitely want to see what he has ideas for. So yeah, what do you think about that, Charlie?
Yeah, definitely interested to see what this one ends up being. Um, who knows what kind of game it will be? Like you said, like it seems really early days. They haven't really said much at all. It seems like it's going to be mainly veterans working at the studio from multiple different outcrops of the industry. So, look, I think I looked at some of the people that were working at the studio, and they were from like all over the place, working on like a wide like variety of genres. So there's no real telling what kind of game it'll be for the first outing. But yeah, I'm super excited to see what it is. Like you, I think Bruce Straley was a really great developer. He was obviously very pivotal, especially on like Last of Us, right? Because he was a co-director on that game. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what it ends up being. I imagine it's a long, long ways off, like most of these studios that get announced, but still cool to see that he's coming back to the industry.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll move on to the next news story. Sadly, another delay here, and that's the Avatar game that we talked about like a few episodes ago. So yeah, turns out this game probably isn't tied to the movie, which I didn't really think it would be. I also didn't really think this game was going to hit this year just because we haven't really seen anything from it. They could have pulled another Skull and Bones that are like here in August. We're going to show off a game that's coming out literally later this year, but no, this is actually being delayed quite substantially. They say 2023 to 2024, so not even confirmed for next year. Um, it sucks, but it's kind of just the way the industry is, right? Delays just kind of to be expected, especially with how we haven't heard from this game in a while, and it was supposed to come out, just in a few months. Not very surprising for me, but yeah. What were your thoughts on this delay?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, mainly because obviously, like I'd said in previous episodes, Tom Henderson had been reporting that it was coming out in November, and that he'd heard that it'd been doing all right in development, and seemed on track. And then after this delay, he posted saying how shocked he was because he'd heard that one of the sources he'd heard of why it was coming out in November is they'd been telling retailers that it was coming out in November. So it seems like a very last minute delay. Something obviously very bad happened along the way that it had to get delayed so much. I know Jeff Grubb had said that apparently, like visually, it looks amazing, but the gameplay wise, it's really suffering. So that may be why it's been delayed. It seemed quite barren. Um, I know a lot of people are speculating that maybe it's just going to be a Far Cry game reskinned as Avatar. And honestly, going back and watching that last trailer where it's all like first person stuff, I would not be surprised if that's what it is.
Oh
Um,
God.
but yeah, I'm interested to see how it turns out because I remember the one on like PS3 and stuff being kind of cool, which I think was also Ubisoft. Um, but yeah, I hope it ends up being cool when it comes out. I have enjoyed both the Division games. Obviously, this is massive that are doing it, so it's the same developers. So I'm definitely interested to see how it turns out. Um, it is a weird one because even though it isn't tied to the film, I get that they were probably trying to release at the end of the year just so they could capitalize on the film, right? It makes sense because you can just advertise, when the game comes out, they could be like, hey, you get a free ticket to the film, or like when you go and see the film, they'll have tons of trailers for the game. So yeah, I get why they would have wanted to release it then, but I'm glad Ubisoft have moved out of this mindset of just ship games whenever, and they are doing more of these delays because I feel like almost every Ubisoft title now gets a delay, which I think is better overall. Just less crunch and less, just broken games at launch.
Yeah, definitely agree. Um, yeah, now we're finally getting our sequel to Far Cry Primal. Nah, I hope not. But wouldn't be surprised because I do remember that there were like a lot of first-person segments. I'm interested in seeing what they're planning in terms of gameplay. Um, but yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to more sad Ubisoft news stories, or I guess not sad necessarily. I mean, these ones are kind of sad, but ultimately, I guess it's for the better. So yeah, Ubisoft canceled quite a few games. So I kind of mentioned one earlier on the episode, Splinter Cell VR. That was canceled. Ghost Recon Frontline was also canceled, which I think was that a mobile game or is that like I have
No,
no
that
idea
was
what that
like the
is.
weird Tarkov PUBG esque like battle
Okay,
royale extraction game or something.
got it. And then also two unannounced games were canceled as well. So yeah, weird that these were all announced at the same time. But yeah, I guess Ubisoft had like a sweeping of projects, and the Splinter Cell one hurts for me because I thought Splinter Cell VR would be like perfect, but clearly there was like issues. We kind of saw that coming because there were a lot of rumors about or I guess a lot of leaks around the Assassin's Creed VR game, but we didn't hear anything about the Splinter Cell one. So that was a little bit telling there, but still just sucks. Just because I feel like stealth works perfectly in VR, just something I want to see more of, and now we won't get that. So let's just pray that Ubisoft's working on a official Splinter Cell game.
Well, they're doing the
And they're
remake,
doing they're
so
doing the remake one, yeah, but like new, I guess that's what I meant. Anyways, what are your thoughts on all those cancellations?
yeah, Frontline doesn't surprise me. Purely because when that got announced, people freaked out online. They were absolutely disgusted by it because Ubisoft and Ghost Recon go hand in hand these days. No matter what game it is, so I get why people didn't like that. To the point where they like postponed the game dramatically because they said they were going to redesign it, which is never a good sign. Then Splinter Cell VR is a weird one to me because it's weird purely because I feel like it's a no brainer. Like you said, stealth works really well in VR. Um, they haven't even tried to release like a big VR title, right? Like they did, what was it, Eagle Flight and like Space Junkies and a few other things here and there, but nothing like big. And I think Assassin's Creed VR will probably do really well. So it seems odd to me that they would can this. There was obviously something behind the scenes not going well with that project. the two unannounced ones, obviously, no idea. I was surprised that like VGC or somebody didn't like speculate on what they were. Normally, they're the kind of like outlet that would be like, "Hey, we've heard of what these were," um, but yeah, nothing about those ones, so no idea what those would be. Um, Interestingly, alongside all this stuff, I know there was some leaks about a new Immortals game, like a new spin-off that's like set with I think it was like Maoan like stuff. So like all the stuff with like Moana and that kind of like stuff. I don't really know, um, but apparently that was like some leaked concept art and things of like a spin off based on that. But it's like super super early in development. So whether they were working on something else that got cancelled and then they worked on this, who knows? And then also there was some stuff about like the Assassin's Creed projects, um, with like how they're doing the more smaller like stealth, like basically more normal Assassin's Creed game, which I think is out like end of this year or like I guess beginning of next year. They're gonna announce at this event that's happening. What is it, next month or the month after, something like that? And then obviously like the big live service game that they're working on. I think the rumor is that the first location that they might do is like Japan or something, which would be cool because people have been wanting that for so long. But at the same time, we kind of got it with Ghost of Tsushima, so um, I don't know if people are still as excited about that as they would have been, like 3 or 4 years ago or something. Um, but yeah, overall, kind of a weird one for Ubisoft. I think they had like their shareholder stuff, so I think that's where a lot of this stuff came out. But um, a lot of like negative stuff to do with Ubisoft, which sucks. But it is what it is.
You know, I was just realizing, I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 came out this week, right?
I don't even know. I know reviews came out, and people were saying it was cool, but I didn't know it was out this week.
Let me look this up just so we can mention it real quick. Alright, Xenoblade Chronicle 3. Yeah, it came out today. Weird. I heard like nothing about this game, but yeah, I guess it did come out. So, yeah, there you go, everyone. I'm sure we broke news on stuff you did not know. Yeah. Anyways, this next news story is kind of exciting. It's like kind of wholesome as well because it's like some good anti-crunch, uh, reporting here. So, essentially, Jason Schreier released a really cool piece on the state of Rockstar Games after obviously Red Dead Redemption 2, and he says that like they've essentially overhauled their whole frat boy culture at that company and are more kinder, more progressive company, which is pretty cool to see. They have like essentially replaced like a lot of the producers they had or like management people that were like pretty toxic and overall has like cleaned it up quite a bit. A lot of like employees are essentially saying how they don't feel rushed to make a game since obviously the last game is like one of the best selling games of all time, and I guess GTA 5 as well is still making a you know buttload of money, especially with online, which is really really cool to see. And alongside this, he also did drop some details, given everything like when he mentioned how they're a more progressive company, he threw in that the lead protagonist for the next GTA game is going to be a Latino woman, which is pretty cool to see since like a lot of the games, I think every single game has been like a male protagonist, and a lot of times they're like white middle-aged men. So it's cool to see that we're gonna have someone else to play as this time around. He also mentioned that apparently they're going to be adding in cities over time. So the main city, the first one at least, is going to be in, I believe he said Miami, and he said over time they're going to be adding some more as well, which is pretty cool to see. And then he said that speaking to developers, they expect the game to be out within like 2 years, which I personally don't think it's going to be that soon. I feel like they would have announced it by now, or they'll announce it like this. If it's coming out in 2 years, they'll announce it this fall probably, because usually Rockstar announces it like 2 years in advance, or yeah, usually around that time I think. But yeah, pretty cool to see that Rockstar has cleaned up their act and are working a lot more anti-crunchly for the industry, which is cool to see. And then obviously, those GTA 6 details, I'm sure a lot of people are eating up because, yeah, we're pushing on 9 years here since GTA 5. Wild. Charlie, let me know what you think about all that.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it, for a number of reasons, right? I'm really skeptical purely because a lot of the story team left Rockstar after Red Dead 2, and like the single player stuff is what I play those games for. I'm not so much into the online. And whilst there's some cool details here that seem to reinforce that there is going to be solo play, right, with having like a female protagonist and where they're going with like the whole I think they said you can choose like male or female, or there's two characters or something like that. Um, they are still gonna have the single player, right? It's not just online, which I think is cool. But then stuff like the adding more cities over time, that just screams like online play to me. That doesn't seem like a single, like they say new missions and stuff. I don't for a second think that means single player missions, because we didn't get a single bit of DLC for the single player in GTA 5 like we were promised all those years ago. So yeah, I don't have any real hope for that side of the game. I think it'll still be fun. Um, I'm also kind of like, I'm glad that we have like a female protagonist in the game. I think that's cool, but I do worry about like the way they're gonna go with how they deal with like just comedy in the sixth game, because the games are very satirical to the point where they can be offensive, but that is the point. And obviously they did start removing some stuff when they re-released it on like PS5 and Series X, right?
I think they
I think
removed like homophobic jokes though.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like I do worry a little bit that they're gonna get quite like, I don't know, woke with it, and I hope they don't. I get, toning some of it down, but I hope that they don't get too scared that people are gonna like cancel the game, because that is kind of part of GTA's DNA. So I get changing it a bit, but I do hope it keeps those kind of elements, because that is like a big part of the series, especially five. Five like fully embraced that. That's kind of what that entire game was, right? So, yeah, I'm still interested in it. I don't know when we'll get a trailer for it. I did see some people were saying, like leakers and stuff were saying, that they wouldn't be surprised if they announce it in some way with a reveal trailer or something towards the end of the year, possibly early next year. Um, I know they were like saying in the article that devs think it's going to be in the next 2 years. I know Tom Henderson was saying he believes it's probably more 2024, 2025 rather than 3 to 4. Um, so we'll see. I could definitely see it being, they announce it for 2023, then delay it a year, and then delay it a year again, because that's what happened with Red Dead.
Yeah, I think usually they announce it like a year before they expect it to come out, but then obviously Rockstar inevitably delays the game.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll see. I could see it getting announced end of this year, but I could also see it them waiting till next year. Because it's Rockstar after all. They can kind of just do whatever they want. They don't really care about showing up anywhere. They'll just announce stuff on Twitter, because it'll just blow up no matter what happens, right? So, it could happen literally a random like Sunday evening. Like, I don't even know. I feel
I
like
mean,
the Red Dead Redemption 2 like first teaser on Twitter, I feel like that was on a weekend, but I can't remember. It
there's
was a
no way.
random day.
No, no, no.
It was
Well,
in
the
the
maybe
middle of
the maybe
nowhere
the
when
teaser of like the picture, like the red,
the red
maybe, but like
the
the
red
actual
logo.
trailer, I remember I
Yeah,
was like literally in class
the
when that came out.
the trailer was during the week, but I seem to remember it was at a really random day or time when they just changed their Twitter picture to like the red Rockstar logo and all their social media
Yeah, they
and
probably
stuff.
did that on the weekend, and like Monday or Tuesday
Okay.
the trailer came out or something, I'm guessing.
Yeah, something like that.
That was
Um,
also, I think the Red Dead Redemption 2 teaser came out the same time as the Switch trailer came out. I remember that.
it was around that time frame, yeah, because it was like October time. That I
I think it
think
was literally
they
the same day. That's what I'm saying.
was it the same day? Damn.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I remember that, yeah, as well.
But yeah, I'm interested to see how it turns out, but I am skeptical. But I'm glad to see that the company is doing much better now. People seem to be really positive in the company overall, which is nice to see after so many years of like negative crunch culture, and not just Rockstar but the industry in general. To finally hear from like a inside a bigger studio that there is change happening is really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. I'm guessing if they're not crunching, probably not going to have a trailer soon, because usually that would be like a
Yeah.
milestone. So I imagine there's not a trailer soon if we're going by the workplace insight. So I'd personally probably expect a trailer next fall, like a year before a year before they expect it to come out, and then it'll inevitably be delayed, and then yeah, like what Tom Henderson's saying, 2024, 2025. That's personally what I expect. But yeah, honestly, I'd rather them just have their heads down for a while, because
Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather just not know about this game like 5 years before it comes out. Even though obviously this game's inevitably, we already knew it was going to be a thing. It's GTA 6. But yeah, just we'll wait. Anyways, a small news story comes in the way of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Essentially, it was listed for early March on the PlayStation Network database. So, yeah, we already know this game's coming out in early 2023. So, early March does not surprise me the least. I kind of forgot this game was in development, to be honest. This and Resident Evil 4, I was like, oh yeah, those are two games coming out next spring that I'm looking forward to. And this will probably be around the same time as PSVR 2 hopefully comes out. So, 2023 does look pretty cool. But yeah, is anything here surprising for you?
Not really. I'm glad it is like early because when they say early, they can usually like really push it out. I did see. I think it was on the Twitter page for this. They were saying it could also be like late February or something like that. I seem to remember like I didn't post it in our Discord, but I think a few days after this, there was some other store page that listed it for like March February time frame. I can't remember what page it was. It might have been like a retailer or something. But yeah, so it seems like that is probably going to line up. I think it'd be a good time frame for the game. I just want to see some gameplay from it. I'm surprised we didn't get any when it got announced, to be honest with you. Because yeah, I feel like they really need to show off the gameplay, especially because there's been a lot of like kind of theories about how it's going to play and stuff, and it looks like he's going to have a blaster this time as well, so they're going to be having like shooting gameplay and stuff, which would be really cool to see. So yeah, I'm interested to see how the gameplay is going to change up a bit. So I'm excited to see that hopefully soon. Maybe at like Gamescom or something. But we'll see.
Blast would be cool. It's kind of funny because like Respawn's known for like shooting,
Yeah,
so the
exactly.
fact that
Yeah.
the first game didn't have a gun is kind of funny to think about that in hindsight. But yeah, that'd be cool. Anyways, a new story that's pretty exciting. This came out like right after we got the Black Panther like movie trailer for Wakanda Forever. Jeff Grubb reported that a Black Panther game is in development. It's titled Project Rainier, developed by the new studio headlined by ex Monolith vice president, and is also obviously going to be published by EA. The main details are that it's an open world single player game where the player becomes the new Black Panther, and it's early in development. I know there's been a lot of controversy over that part where the player becomes the new Black Panther, because a lot of people like the idea of obviously there being a canon Black Panther that's like non changing. I feel like a lot of people are reading into this too much. Like it totally could just be where the player just customizes the clothes that they're wearing, I'm guessing, or something like that, or like some other details. Um, but that being said, I could see it just for, a full character customization. I don't really have any strong thoughts on that. I feel like it'd be cool to have a game like that because I feel like as a kid that would have been like a dream game to have where like it's kind of like that DC Universe Online thing, but for like a more single player game where it actually matters and you see your character in like really cool set pieces. So I personally don't mind that, but I could see why comic fans are mad about that, especially if it's like someone that obviously has like a canon representation that they don't want to see touched. But yeah, I know you're really big into Marvel, so what is your take on all this?
I mean, I'm kind of mixed on it for a variety of reasons. One of them is that I'm not a big Black Panther guy. I never really have been. He's not like my main character. I don't really care for his comic stuff, and I wasn't a big fan of the film or anything. So, um, like I've never been too like positive about it. Um, the thing that gets me more excited is the it's being headed by one of the Monolith guys, right? Just because I really liked those Middle Earth games, so I'm interested to see what cool gameplay stuff they could do there. Obviously they can't really do the Nemesis system, right? Because it's patented by Warner Brothers, so it's kind of weird with that. Like they wouldn't be able to do something like that. Um, so the create or maybe create your character thing is kind of weird. I think the only thing that was confirmed is that at the start of the game, the current Black Panther dies, and then you're taking up the mantle. They haven't said if you make the character or which Black Panther you would be. Um, I would hope it's just that you're playing as T'Challa and T'Chaka dies at the start, like how it happens in the MCU and stuff, right, and the comics. Um, I really don't. I don't want it to be a create your own character, um, mainly because I can feel that EA would have the temptation to make it so you can be white, and you can't like it's a thing. You can't be a white Black Panther. It's just not a thing because you have to be from Wakanda, and there ain't white people in Wakanda. I'm saying it. So it's and loads of people are saying it online. It's just the truth. So it's just and there would be so much backlash if you could do it because it would just be major whitewashing. So I hope they don't do that. I would like it so that it's a character you play as, preferably T'Challa. I'd just like to have a T'Challa story. And I don't like the idea that because Chadwick passed away, they can't do stories with that version of the character. I think that really sucks. Because that was a big thing when the Avengers DLC came out, right? They obviously pushed it back because of his death, which makes sense. But then they were saying how like nervous they were to interpret that character, um, which is such a shame because the character is in has been in the comics for a long time. Um, so I do hope that maybe it's that version of the character, but we'll see. Um, yeah, it's a weird one. I don't really know where they're gonna go with it, but I hope it's not a create your own character. For me
Has Black
personally.
Panther been like female in the comic? I'm wondering if they'd allow
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I wouldn't be
Okay,
surprised if you could be a female one. But I think
that'd be
everyone's in
cool.
agreement that because the only female one off the top of my head is Shuri, and she sucks in the comics, so no one likes her. So I I really hope that it isn't that. Um, Purely because I don't like that character. But yeah, we'll see. Like I was saying, the leaks and stuff haven't said anything about that, but I think that's more because the game is quite early in development, so maybe that hasn't isn't even something they've fully decided yet. You just don't know.
Yeah, that's cool though. It sounds like a cool game. Definitely interested in getting a Black Panther game like that. Like you said, it'd be really stupid if he could be white. I saw like so many memes of that, like Ryan Gosling as the Black Panther or something. It's like so funny. So yeah, let's hope that does not happen. And yeah. Anyways, probably the saddest news story of this week has been that Knights of the Republic is going through like development hell and has been delayed internally, or indefinitely rather. Sorry. Obviously, Knights of the Republic was a game that was announced. I want to say what it's been. Has it almost been 2 years at this point now? Because it
No,
was like right
it
before
was
the
last
PS.
year.
Oh, it was last year. No, okay, it was at the September showcase. So it's almost
Yeah,
been
yeah.
1 year actually. Yeah, it sucks. I know they're having issues with like the directors or like to develop. Yeah, like just the direction of the game and stuff like that. Really sucks because obviously this is a project that a lot of people are excited about. Um, yeah, just sucks. What is your thoughts on this? I know you're huge on Star Wars, and I think you really were looking forward to this game, right?
Yeah, I was super looking forward to it. And what's really weird is that the devs didn't seem to know this was happening at all. They all seemed very positive on the project and seemed like it was on track. So I don't really know what's going on there. It sounds like Embracer Group and stuff that are in charge felt that it wasn't moving along quick enough for their tastes and that they were putting a lot of money into it. But the weird thing is with a game like this is I feel like it warrants having the money put in because it has Star Wars in the name, so it's gonna sell. Um, it doesn't matter that it's not coming from like a massive developer, right? Because it's gonna have that name behind it. It's gonna sell no matter what. Um, and obviously a lot of other fans that may not have played a lot of more recent Star Wars stuff because of the name Knights of the Old Republic, they'll probably go back for it. Um, I know they were saying because I think a lot of the devs they were preparing to show off like a version of the game to like a lot of the shareholders and PlayStation, and that's when this happened. It sounds like they weren't happy with it, even though the developers were really happy with it. Um, so yeah, it's an odd one. I did see some rumors were saying that maybe it's going to get passed over to Saber Interactive because they're part of Embracer Group and their last like shareholder thing, they said how they were helping out with development. So it's possible that it's going to get moved over to those guys instead, um, which I think would kind of suck because Aspire of like other than Knights of the Old Republic 2 on Switch, which Warlock reminded me of the other day, they still have not fixed, so you cannot finish the game on Switch as of today. Like, it still has not been fixed. Other than that, they've done a really good job porting over the Star Wars games. The devs seem to have a big passion for the franchise. So it seems like a weird choice to take it away from them. But yeah, I do hope this comes out eventually, and I think it will. I doubt that this is a game that's just going to never happen because it's been asked for so long. and it's such a popular series of games that I don't see it being left by the wayside. And I think Sony have put a lot of money into it as well, because it sounds like they were part of this whole kind of like shareholder meeting thing where they were viewing the game, because obviously they paid for this like timed exclusivity or whatever it ends up being. Um, so yeah, it's very sad and weird to see, but I do think it's eventually going to happen. It's probably just going to be a while before we hear what's actually going to go on with it.
Yeah, sucks to see. This is probably like the worst the industry can get, honestly. When like projects become like delayed indefinitely, and directions unclear, and like especially when you switch developers, like we've seen what happens with Metroid Prime with that. Yeah, it's ugly. But hopefully, things get worked out relatively soon here, and while we won't see this project for years, yeah, the sooner they get this sorted, the better, right? So yeah. Anyways, our last news story will be probably a long one, I imagine. We'll talk about this for a bit. Yeah, Last of Us remake. Yeah, I feel like any conversation around this has been toxic as of late. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. Not like we're gonna be toxic to each other, but essentially, Last of Us remake got a like 10-minute video just showing off everything that makes this a remake. So redone environments, reworked AI, cutscenes, like how they look differently in terms of character expressions. Um, you know, there's now going to be things you can unlock for like the shirts and all that. A bunch of stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool. And obviously, there's been all the conversation online around whether this was worth it or not, whether it should be $70 or not. Yeah, so the whole gameplay video came out, and it's definitely clear that like there's definitely been some improvements in terms of the gameplay. Like I don't know, like you can't tell me the game doesn't look, a little bit different. It looks like it plays more like Part Two in a way, not in terms of the mechanics. Like there's no dodging, there's no prone, but it definitely doesn't look as like stiff as Joel looked in the first game, which I think was the main thing I was looking for here in the remake. There was like a leak as well, and they showed off some more footage like officially. Environments look pretty much the same in terms of like the overall like box structure. It just like the textures, overhauls, and everything like that is like largely overhauled. Yeah, I don't really know how to bring up this topic. I guess we're just going to talk about like our thoughts on what was shown off. In terms of what I think, I was talking about this with like a friend yesterday. I don't think I think it mainly just comes down to a personal choice at the end of the day, because obviously $70 is a lot of money to spend for like any sort of game like this, and especially if you already played the game before, you're spending $70 for like to play this game in the best shape possible, to play it on the PS5 with like haptic feedback, overhauled like visuals, better AI, and a better gameplay experience, because obviously we haven't played it yet on the stick, but I'm sure it feels a lot better. But yeah, it's not like you're playing like a whole brand new game. I know there's a lot of people that are mad that this is like essentially a remake, but they're not really remaking stuff. They're just kind of remastering a bunch of stuff, which I totally get, because there isn't really a lot like in terms of like content that's changed here, or at least in terms of reworked environments. They haven't really changed stuff. I know my friend I was talking to yesterday is like, for a remake, I would expect them to like change the level layout, or like actually make some changes for the better. But it just seems like it's a remaster, just with better graphics. Ultimately, I get that. It seems like people are always polarized between two sides. There's like one side that think this is like an easy cash grab, and that there's like been no work done on this remake. That it's not worth $70, and then there's like people defending it, saying like, oh, there's been like crazy changes, and that it's clearly worth $70. I'm kind of in the middle. Like I don't think. I think it's a personal choice ultimately. Like I think there's been like definitely some cool changes that I'm looking forward to in terms of like the gameplay. It looks less stiff for me. The environments look amazing. Obviously it's one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm gonna be buying it. It comes out on my birthday, and for me it's worth $70. But I totally get it if people skip out on this or wait for a sale, because it largely is the same exact game that you probably have played multiple times already, and that's already been out and remastered before. So I guess that's kind of my thought process on this. I definitely think there's been a lot of work done on this remake. There's no doubt about it. I get why they didn't add prone, and I get why they didn't add. I feel like a dodge button would have been more fun. I get why they didn't add prone. Obviously, Joel is meant to be like a middle-aged man. He's not as flexible as Ellie. But I really did enjoy the change that they added with the dodge button, because it just made fights with like clickers a lot more fun. The thing about the Last of Us original one is like, if you're fighting against a clicker and you don't have a weapon, you either like have to run away, or if you do have a weapon, just spam square. Part 2 added the dodge button, which made fights with infected a lot more fun. But yeah, that's clearly not a thing that's added in here, which I could have would have liked to see, but it sucks. Yeah. Anyways, Charlie, what is your thoughts on this whole entire conversation? Where do you stand? Are you gonna be picking this up? Yeah.
I mean, my first thought straight away, where's my boy? I wanted a Donut Joel, right? They added skins, and they didn't put Donut Drake in Uncharted. They should have added a Donut Joel. It would have made up for this whole thing, and it would have made it worth the $70. But no, we're not getting it. We just get some boring T-shirts. So thanks for that one, Neil. Appreciate it. So yeah. Anyway, my actual thoughts. Um, like you, I'm kind of mixed. I'm more on the negative side just because I'm personally not going to be picking it up anymore. Um, but that's just because for me, it doesn't do enough for me to personally warrant £70 towards it, right? Like you, it is. I think it's completely down to personal choice. I do not give a fuck if someone wants to buy this game. Like, it's entirely up to you. If you feel like you can justify it and you really want to buy this game again or buy it for the first time, more power to you. I'd like that's your choice, right? Like buy what you want to buy. It's just for me, there isn't enough there for me to warrant it. I think I can't knock it visually. I think it looks better in almost every way, right? I think the models look better. I think the environments look a lot more detailed and just like nice. The only thing I don't like visually is it seems to the color palette seems to be a bit more toned down compared to the original, which is a interesting choice. Um, but overall, I think the visuals look great. I think the new effects and stuff look really good. But for me, the main thing that I wanted is I wanted some kind of change to gameplay. Not necessarily adding mechanics from part two. I think, like you, I think the dodge would have been great. And I think it could have worked. They've said in the past that they plan to have a dodge in part one for a long time back on PS3, and they cut it out of the game. So I don't really know why they didn't implement that in some way, even if it was, slightly different or slower or something like that. The prone, I totally get. The game was never designed for prone. It doesn't really work. Both as a story thing with him being old, but also the fact that the levels are just not designed for that at all, right? So I get that one. For me though, I wanted it to just I don't know how it's hard to explain it, but I get that you are saying it looks a bit smoother and stuff, and I'd have to obviously play it. It's kind of hard to tell
Yeah.
from gameplay, but from looking at it, it didn't look any different to me. And in the video they showed, it looked a bit more better because they didn't show any of the melee stuff. But from all the leaked footage, all of that looked literally taken out of the original game. Like all the animations are literally ripped out of the remaster, and you can't tell me that they remade those. Like it's just
They
not
actually are
a
remade.
thing.
Digital Foundry did go back, and they're
Really?
like,
That's
they are
insane.
remade.
Like, because they look identical. That's the weird thing. Like, it just looks. It's got the same kind of I don't know what the word would be, kind of magnet feel to it, where Joel gets kind of like pulled into the person and hits them, and then pulled into them again each time he hits. Like I don't know, it just doesn't look as smooth as Part Two does in that way, which is a weird
I'm
one to me.
I'm looking at the gameplay. I've played Last of Us One like so many times, and just looking at the footage, it looks like it plays. It looks like it plays a lot more like Part Two than it looks like it plays the original one.
Okay, yeah, I
Like it
don't know.
doesn't.
It's
Yeah.
just it's to me it doesn't warrant me buying it. And I don't know. I think the easiest way they could have avoided all of this is because it's obviously not called Last of Us Remake, right? It's called Last of Us Part 1, but they said remade from the ground up. And they should just never have said that, and it would have caused a hell of a lot less issues for them if they just said it's a remaster again. I think people still would have been annoyed, rightfully so, because they would have been like, "Oh, you've already remastered it." Um, but it's just the wording they used, and they've been very weird about how they word it in all their blog posts with like remade, like whatever they say about the gameplay and stuff like that. Like it's very specific the way they word stuff to not sound like they make it sound way more than it is. Um, but yeah, and I think the main thing for me once I saw it and I thought about it and thought, do I really want to spend £70 on it? For me, was I spent £70 on Horizon Forbidden West, and I'm gonna spend £70 on God of War Ragnarok, and those two games are brand new games that are built from the ground up, right? Like they are brand new games with complete, especially like Horizon, like that over God of War. I think from what we've seen, is
I haven't
completely
seen
new,
really
right?
much of God of War though.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, those games are gonna have. Even though like you, I think Last of Us Part One. There's no doubt about it. It's had a lot of work put into it. I would say, without a doubt, those two games have had a lot more work put into them than this remake in quotation marks has had. So for me, for them to charge the same amount of money is kind of a slap in the face from Sony, and that's why I'm not buying it, because I just don't want to support it. Um, and I think if they'd shown me more of like, here is really what you're getting for your money, then I would have gone, okay, maybe I'll do it. But yeah, for the fact they're charging the same for that as they are a brand new game that I've never played before, that to me is like, no, I'm not gonna give you my money. I think if I'd never played Last of Us, I think it would be a different story. Because I do think if you've never played it before, obviously it's the definitive way you're probably ever going to play this game, and it's probably going to be worth that amount. And at the end of the day, is personal choice. But for me, it wasn't enough to get me interested. And I know, like, it's gonna sound weird, but also removing factions was another thing for me. I knew it wouldn't be in there.
What? Really?
Because I knew it wouldn't be there because it wasn't with like the Nathan Drake collection. But like the main difference there for me,
they remastered the graphics for the multiplayer game.
I didn't think they would, but it's just another thing for me where I'm like, Uncharted Nathan Drake collection was it full price? I don't know if it was. It wasn't obviously £70.
Yeah.
And the multiplayer they cut out and it sucked, but you had 3 games for the price of whatever they charged. Last of Us Remastered was full price, but you still got the multiplayer and it was ported all over. Whereas this, they're charging more than they did originally, and they've cut out the multiplayer. And they haven't added like new content, right? So for me, that was another thing. I was like, I didn't think they'd ever add it, especially because they're doing this other mode, right? Like they're gonna do this new multiplayer game, but that was still another thing where I was like, yeah, I kind of wish you'd at least ported it or something. Just give that multiplayer just another lease of life, even if you didn't remake that part of the game, right? I think it would have been cool just to get that ported over, but yeah, overall, I think it looks great. It's just I won't be picking it up, and it wasn't enough to justify it. But I have no issue with other people buying it. Like, I'm not gonna be one of these Twitter bots that gets all triggered when people are like, like buying it. I ain't gonna cancel anyone for buying this game. Like, do what you want with your money. But yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I'm personally like not surprised the multiplayer is not here. I never expected the multiplayer just because like it's like such a different like experience, and like they would like I'd be pissed if they started like working on the multiplayer instead of remastering those maps, because then that's like you could be making those maps new for factions too instead. But yeah, so that stuff doesn't bother me. But like like you said, like a lot of it also just comes down to like it's like Sony's issue instead of like Naughty Dog or anyone that made the multiplayer or made the remake. Sorry. And obviously, the decision to make it $70 because that's totally up to the publisher, not the developer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it sucks that they're doing that. They just know that it will sell, right? Last of Us will sell. It's just facts. Like, yeah, part 1 and part 2 sold extremely well, and this will as well. Seeing the footage though, man, it makes me so sad that like this wasn't Drake's Fortune at the same time though, because like just seeing how good this looks, I'm just like, man, imagine if they did go back with the original idea of Drake's Fortune, which I think it was the original idea was to do Drake's Fortune possibly.
The
that
thing
would be
is,
super cool.
The thing is with that, I actually felt the complete opposite. Like I had
Really?
the complete opposite reaction of I'm glad they didn't do it because I feel like they would have put in minimal effort with the gameplay. And
Well,
I
no,
feel
they would have had to do gameplay efforts.
But,
There's no way they would
yeah,
release a game that plays like Drake's Fortune in
the
2022.
because the thing is with Last of Us is the gameplay is still really good, so you don't really have to do anything with the gameplay. Like really, there's nothing that needed to be changed, so why would you? Whereas with Drake's Fortune, they would have had to do something, and I don't know if they would have done. I would like to think they would have done, but based on like my opinion on the Last of Us remake, I'm kind of glad that they didn't do a proper remake of a game that needed it, because I don't know what that would have turned out like. And I wonder if maybe that's why the project didn't go ahead in the first place, because it would have been a lot more work. I don't know if that's, I think that was the idea, right? Was that they wanted to do a remake at this other what was the studio? The Visual Media Group or whatever?
Visual Media, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
like
they went with Last of Us just because it would have sold, and it was more like not that Uncharted's dead or anything, but Last of Us is just more active, right? It has more stuff going on. It has an HBO show. It has
And it would have been
factions.
easier. Like, there's no
Yeah, that too.
denying it. It would have been a lot easier for them to do as a like a first project, and I think that was the initial idea because it was like if this does well, then we can do other stuff, and then Naughty Dog took over. So it's an interesting one, but yeah, I don't know. I am mixed on it. I would have liked to have seen them do like a Drake's Fortune remake. I think
It
that
would
would
have
be
made more
awesome,
sense
but
because like they have like three projects they're working on right now, right? Factions, Last of Us Part One remake, and a new IP. It would have been like so balanced if they had a remake of a game that needed it from the Uncharted franchise. They have the multiplayer standalone experience from The Last of Us, and then at the same time they're doing like a new IP as well. Like it would have been like perfectly balanced for Naughty Dog's like IP. But yeah, just sucks that happened the way it did. It makes sense as a business standpoint. I'm not complaining because I love The Last of Us. I like it more than Drake's Fortune. I just would have loved to see what they would have done it with Drake's Fortune instead.
yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I know that's been like a big debate on Twitter. Looking forward to hopefully getting some more footage and stuff like that. I'm sure they'll change the ending because that was like another big thing, obviously with Abby's dad at the end. I'm sure that model will change because it's
Oh
like a
yeah, for
random
sure.
guy in
Yeah.
the original. I don't know if they'll do any more capture. They probably won't do any like new cutscenes with them. I'm sure, but probably just update the
Yeah,
model. I
because I think
think.
they reused all the original performances, right? So I
Yeah,
doubt they'll go back and redo any of it.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, still looks great in my opinion. Like in terms of like visuals and gameplay, looks a little bit different. Obviously, we're gonna have to play it to try it out. This will be a perfect game to put on like time trial for the PlayStation Premium thing.
Honestly, if
Honestly,
it was there, I'd try it. Yeah,
I mean we don't know, right? Oh, I guess they probably would have announced that if it was. But yeah, like I think if there was a game to put on the time trial,
it would be
just
this.
that would be
Yeah.
the perfect one because that's the main thing, right? People have been debating about the gameplay. Well, why don't you just go try it out yourself? If they're like really confident about it, they should do that. But yeah. Anyways, I guess that's it for this week's episode. Quite a long one. I don't think we've had a long episode like this in quite a bit of time, but it makes sense, right? We've been gone for what 2-3 weeks now, so yeah. Anyways, yeah, thanks for joining me again as always, Charlie, and to everyone watching, appreciate it as always. We'll see you next week for episode 76. Take care.
See you later.